we hack the code and flip the tag. Where cliches come to retire. Drop that beat, turn down to fire. Say what's real, make fears take a seat. Unconventional wisdom, dancing on your feet. Hey.
Hello, and welcome to Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. I am just delighted today to have my friend and attorney, Evelyn Ackah, today. She is a business immigration law attorney with a really interesting practice. Evelyn, why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about you and your practice?
Thanks so much for having me, Kim. I'm so excited. My name is Evelyn Ackah, and I started Ackah Business Immigration Law 15 years ago. I started December 1st, 2010. I have been practicing for 25 years, but I started the firm when I was adopting twins on my own as a single parent and who are now 14 and a half. And I knew I needed to change my life and my focus and flexibility. At our firm, we focus on helping people grow and thrive beyond borders. So we do Canadian and US immigration law. And I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer, and we have US attorneys on our team as well. And in total, our team is made up of about 19 people. Half of them are in Canada, and the other half are international. Some are offshore, some are in the US. And we're really busy this year. We're very grateful for that. And we just focus on giving compassionate, proactive, high touch immigration support for professionals and businesses.
That's amazing. And that was actually some of, I think, what we'll get to later on is how you manage so many people in so many different places.
Yeah,
Because I think that's a job in and of itself.
it is. It is.
Yeah. All right. Before we get there, your random question is what are you reading right now?
I read so much, Kim. It's my therapy. So I had to choose one, and I'm actually rereading a book that I read almost every year. It's
Mm.
called Broken Open: How Difficult Times Help Us Grow. And it's a great book by Ellen Glaser, I think her name is. And it's really about going through different challenges, whether it's professional or personal, and how we turn those into learning opportunities. And I've always believed that if you're a seeker type of person like me, where you're looking always for answers or understanding about things in yourself and your team or your personal life, this book really helps you mine those challenging situations and turn them
Mhm.
into learning and growth opportunities. So it's a standard that I read almost every year, and it just helps me stay connected to myself.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I typically am, so I'm a voracious reader as well. So I typically am reading some kind of fiction
Mhm.
and then some sort of personal or business development book. So right now, and this doesn't probably make any logical sense, but I read fiction and
Mhm.
I tend to listen to personal development or professional
Really?
development.
I think
Yep.
I'm the opposite. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause I like to read the nonfiction or the business books and like underline with
Ah,
pencil and tab the pages and whatever. And the fiction is just, I just absorb it without needing to study it. Do you know what I'm saying?
oh,
That's how
yeah.
maybe it's the way I learned in university.
It does actually make sense. I just want to say this, my absolute favorite fiction book right now, one of the best books I think, not even that I've read this year, but I'm going to say it's going to be in maybe my top 5 ever, is called How to Read a Book.
Oh,
Marie Bostic.
okay.
And I will tell you, it is one of the most delightful, just fabulous books.
I'm writing it down. Every time
Yeah.
I hear about a book, Kim, I'm like, okay, add that, go buy it. It's just like
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah. And then my professional development book, which I am listening to, and like you, I think I'm listening to it for maybe at least the third time,
Mhm.
is 10x is easier than 2x.
Yeah, a good one too. I've read
Right.
that too.
Ben Hardy and Dion
Yeah,
Sutherland.
it's a
Yeah.
good one. It's a good one. Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
So,
I would say my nonfiction I'm reading right now, I don't know, is How to Read a Financial Report. And it's hard. Of course, I have accountant and bookkeeper, and I just hired a fractional CFO, but I really need to master that. They don't teach that in law school. And
Right.
no matter how many financial reports I look at, my eyes always glaze over a little bit. I know
Right.
what I'm looking for, but I think to dig deeper. So I'm hoping that'll give me some more experience.
That's a good thing. I wonder if that isn't a good chat GPT task.
Very
And
good.
what I would suggest, I think the mistake a lot of people make when they use ChatGPT is they use it like it's Google.
Yeah,
So they would put in something like, how do I read a financial report? Which I guess if that's as deep as you need to go, first of all, you don't need to use ChatGPT, just ask Google,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I think what is interesting about the capacity for ChatGPT is to describe yourself and describe your personality
Yep.
and then to prompt it to explain to you the depth with which you are looking for and
Great.
maybe and then actually I learned this and we'll put it in the show notes because I don't know who the author is, but I read another book earlier this year called The AI Driven Leader.
Mhm.
And what I got from that was a very interesting syntax for prompting. So you put in all that information and you put in the outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And then you say, ask me up to 10 questions, one at a time, for clarity before you give me the answer.
Process. Okay.
And then it starts to give, it prompts you, it asks you questions so that it can really understand you and what you're looking for. And then the last thing that I would say is that it's not Google. So it can be your thought partner. So it's not like it gives you one output and then you're like, great, I'm done.
You can develop it further and further.
Right. You can develop it further. So I don't know if that's helpful to
I think
anybody.
that's very helpful because for 2026, one of our goals for the firm is that everybody will be utilizing AI deeper in every role to be
Right.
more efficient, to be more effective, not to replace them, but to really try to find ways to make their lives easier, less frustration.
Right.
So that's a huge factor for us for 2026.
Right. And I just think we need to get more sophisticated
Mhm.
about how we use generative AI, whether it's ChatGPT or you have
Absolutely.
another one that you prefer. And of course, it's ever changing. But
For
right.
sure. There's
Yeah.
perplexity, and I've heard good things about that. And yeah, for us, it's about
Yeah.
testing it all and figuring it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know when anybody is going to listen to this, but if you do happen, here's just one other little tidbit
Mhm.
is if you use Venmo,
Yep.
they are offering to the end of December a year-long subscription to Perplexity Pro
Mhm.
for free.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
Yeah. So the only thing you need to do is just, of course, make sure that you put in your calendar for next year
Mm,
when the expiration is, because if you don't want to get charged for it, you have to cancel it before then.
yes, of course.
Yeah.
Never ending.
I just got charged for something that I didn't remember. And once you get charged for it,
Yep,
that's
that's
the
it.
end. So that's why I'm saying it because I got burned and I was not happy. And the thing is that there's just nothing you can, it's not
I
their
don't think
fault.
that's true. Sometimes,
They're,
you know what? It's happened to us. It's because we have so many
right.
programs and technologies, and we've gone back and said, "Oh, sorry, we weren't planning on renewing. Could you please?" And they actually have refunded us.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
we've done it a couple times because we have so many things and we diarize them. And so we've removed auto renewal from everything because that
Yeah.
was, but
Yeah.
it's
It's
worked for us
dangerous.
before. It might be useful to pick up the phone or email them.
Yeah. Good. All right. That's also good advice. Look at that. We just started. We haven't even gotten to business yet, and we're giving so much value. All right, friend. So
Mhm.
let's get into the business part of this and ask you about what your expectations were when you first started as a baby lawyer and in business. Like, what did you used to believe was going to make you successful? What kind of conventional wisdom? And then what have you figured out 15 years down the road It,
Interesting.
that doesn't work for you anymore.
Yeah. When I started out as a lawyer, I graduated law school a long time ago, 1997, and then I moved to Toronto from Vancouver, where I grew up, and I worked on Bay Street at big law firms and also E&Y. And it was all about head down, working hard, crazy,
Right.
learning, huge learning curve, mentoring and all the rest of it. But it was just work, 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 and you'll get there. That was the message. And we had car service to take us home at midnight and then come back to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. And dry cleaning picked up and all the food because you didn't leave your desk, and it was crazy times, and I did that for 12 years. And I think the messaging at that point was work hard and you'll get that golden prize of partnership. And I worked hard, and but I also experienced a lot of challenges as some of the firms, there were no other people of color, there weren't very many women of color and people who looked like me, and definitely experienced some challenges around racism and discrimination and just not being a part of the old boys club. I clearly wasn't. I come from parents who are immigrants and didn't have university, and so they weren't able to really assist me to maneuver through those challenges. But I
Sure.
think that I did make partner, and at the end of the day I was like, this is not really all that it's cracked up to be. I work and I have no regrets about that. And I think it's old school mentality was like, you just do your 18, 20 hours a day and you're going to get there. I realize it doesn't necessarily get you there, because I've seen a number of people who did that head down. They didn't toot their horn. They didn't market well. They didn't do business development. They just worked, and they felt like they'd be recognized and then be tapped on the shoulder. And I learned that's not the way to do it, at least for me. I think for
Right, right,
me,
right.
that conventional head down, work hard is not necessarily the right thing for me. And when I talk to a lot of younger lawyers and especially women lawyers, I always say it's important that you can develop your own business, even in a big firm, even in big law,
Right.
even in a medium sized law firm or an organization. You have to figure out how you can become indispensable. And that's not necessarily putting your head down and working 20 hours a day. It is being seen as somebody who can bring in business, who can network, who can build relationships, who they want to take to meetings with them because you bring something to the table that is different and unique. And so that's what I started doing. And that's how I was able to grow a practice and then take my practice and start my firm 15 years ago.
I do think it is interesting when the goal always right. You got to make partner. That's the top. That's the creme de la creme. And that is everything.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get there and you're like, maybe not so much everything.
And you
Right.
know what? I was seeing the partners working the same kind of hours, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Because they were like elbows up. They didn't want to even delegate as much and push things down. And so it was like, why am I still working like this? Yeah, I'm making
Right.
more money, but I'm still not living the lifestyle that I thought I would live
Right.
at this point in my career.
Yeah. And the other thing that really occurs to me about this is that I think that conventional wisdom and mentality around we have to work a gazillion hours, that equals success. And then in a lot of ways, that's so much the reason why millennials and Gen Zs get so much flack
Yeah.
because they don't want to do it. And they're not less successful.
No.
They're just not buying into the convention
Yeah.
because they saw their parents and their grandparents
Yeah.
and how unhappy it made them. And they're like, yeah, that's not the kind of life I want to have.
For sure. And I think it's been a real challenge for some of these traditional organizations to adapt. I have friends who do
Right.
all the generational in the workplace challenges, and COVID, even though it was awful for so many people, the benefit of COVID, I think, was, at least in the legal profession, was it taught people they could work from anywhere. And when
Mm.
I was a young lawyer, you had to be in the office. They didn't believe you were actually working if you weren't sitting at your desk. And sometimes people would put their jackets on their chair and make it look like they just went to grab dinner at 9 o'clock at night and go home and sleep because they thought you were coming back. But you don't have to do that anymore. I think
Right.
most firms, hopefully, are recognizing work can be done anywhere, and people are sometimes more productive when they can be left alone and not have the coffee and all the chit chat and produce better quality work.
Right. So interesting. All right. Arguably, You run a successful firm. You've been doing this for a long time. And what is one thing that on the inside you still wrestle with?
Oh, my deepest, darkest secrets, Kim. You know what? I think I still wrestle with insecurity around being a leader. I always say that I've heard this so many times in different coaching I've done over the years is the success of your firm is directly tied to your personal success. So your personal development is directly tied to the success of your law firm or your business. And that's why I read constantly and listen to podcasts constantly because there's always a nugget. I get something that helps me be better because I am not a perfect leader. I've been a work in progress for 15 years. Definitely when I started my firm, I wasn't a leader. I was a lawyer trying to be a business owner. And in 15 years, I think I have developed to being a leader. And I think I bring as much as I can to the table, but there's always room to improve. And so there are moments when something will happen and I'm like, did I handle that the best way I could? Or, oh, maybe I was too quick on the draw there. And so it's this constant self evaluation, sometimes self criticism, which I'm working through around taking the lessons and improving it next time. And I
Right.
think as a leader, that's important, even to be vulnerable and apologize and say, you know what, having one of those days, my bad, I'm sorry, please just forgive me and let's move on. Those are things that I think are important that I'm working through.
And I do think as a leader, it is important if you expect your employees to take responsibility for their mistakes, take responsibility for being behind on a deadline, whatever it is, then, well, okay, here's the thing. What I was going to say
Have
is
to.
then you need to model
I
that,
do.
right? Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Here's the thing, there's lots of leaders that don't, but they are also have higher turnover and right a lot of other things because they're disingenuous. That's what their employees feel.
Absolutely. And I think being authentic is critical and being who you are with them all the time. And that means whether a client's in the office or not, and whether you're out with lunch and dinner with your team or you're in the office, like the same person has to show up. And so that level of authenticity is something that I really work through and I share a lot with them, at least around what's happening with, oh, my kids did this and oh my goodness, let me
Mhm.
hear about what's happening with you. Or recently I'm going through a personal transition and getting divorced. And I told them right away and they were just incredible. And they just gave me that room to just do what I needed to do so that I could get my head back in the game. And that was really wonderful to feel supported by them because they've gone through challenges and I've been able to support them. And so I really appreciated that I allowed them that opportunity and they just stepped up to the plate. It was
Right.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you said something really important there, which is you allowed them to support you. We just need to take a moment and say, wow.
Yeah.
Because I think oftentimes you are the leader. You got 19 people in your firm. I think a lot of leaders feel like they have to hold everybody up all the time, but they're not open to having anybody hold them up,
Receiving. Yeah, you're totally
right?
right. And I think when I was a younger leader, law firm owner, I felt like I had to be perfect in
Right.
every way and that I had to have this presence and be like, oof, I'm the big boss and I have to do it
Mhm.
right and I'm perfect. And then hold them up to that level. And if they didn't, then there was something wrong with them or that they weren't meeting my expectations. And so it's just been such a relief, I'd say over the last 5, 6 years to just let that go and like let those cracks show through and let the light come through those cracks where they recognize I truly am human and I'm not a machine, no matter how much I worked to present that image to be competent and deal with my own insecurities. It covers up that facade, but now it's no. And I remember going back, I started the firm, I always say, so I could bring all of myself to work every
Mm,
day. Whereas I couldn't do that when I had to wear a
right.
navy suit and all this kind of stuff. I couldn't do that. And so it's like, why am I not letting my firm give me all those things that I started it for? So I really went back to the basics when COVID hit, especially, and everybody went home. And I was like, what kind of firm do I want now?
Mm,
And I need to be able to bring myself to work. I need to feel comfortable in my own space every day with my team and have people in the team that I feel safe with and comfortable with and that I trust fully, or else they're not the right people for the firm.
Oh, so powerful. Gives me the chill bumps. And if you are listening to this on audio, I just want to make note that Evelyn is wearing a beautiful pink suit because that's how she rolls.
That's how I roll. I just like you with the color. The one thing I used to say, I never wore Novi suits, but what I meant by that was like the conservative. And at some point when I was working on Baystar, I was like, I'm not gonna fit in. I had a shaved short hair, little short afro, and I was not fitting in. I looked like me. Nobody else looked like me in my firm. And I just thought, forget about it. So I always wore red and pink
Oh,
and
I love
purple
that.
and blue and turquoise. I was like, listen, I'm already standing out. I might as well stand out.
That's right.
And so I
Embrace it.
exactly. So I turned that difference into my superpower, and everybody knew that, oh, there's Evelyn because she's in her purple power suit or she's in her red suit. And that just helped me be more visible in a positive way as opposed to
Right.
feeling it was a negative. You know what I'm saying? And like you
Absolutely.
love color. I love color. It's who we are. So it's like, why repress that? Definitely,
Right.
I've become even more colorful on my own.
Yeah, I love that. All right. So if you could rewrite the rule book on leadership, what's one outdated belief that you would throw away and what would you replace it with?
I think a bit of what I was talking about is being vulnerable as a leader. Like you'd read John Maxwell, who I love. I've got his book right here, many of his books. I think your team needs to see that you can be vulnerable. There have been moments over the past 15 years where I've come into work crying, somebody's passed, or when I was in my adoption process early on, a baby that was born that's supposed to be my little girl, that they changed their mind, and it was just like devastating. And I was like, I came to work and I was like, what am I doing here? And they sent me home because I clearly was not able to be there. And so I think I used to think the vulnerability with your team was a weakness. And as I said, the machine, the everything had to be. Now I've definitely learned, that's been my big learning, is the more vulnerable that I show up to my team, the more I'm allowing them to be vulnerable. The more they come to me with their tears and their challenges or their struggles and open up so I can help them if they choose for me to help them or even just listen to them. And then it gives me context as to, okay, they're having a tough week because this is happening. So let's all just give extra love and support and
Right.
back off. So I think vulnerability has definitely been my real challenge, and I think I've mastered it. Never perfect, but I definitely bring more of it every day to the office, and I think it permits them to do the same.
And it's such an interesting balance,
Yeah.
right? Right? Because there is a like a place where it is very helpful, right? And appropriate.
Yes.
And then it's also a place of business. One thing, and I've done this before in some of the coaching that I've done for businesses, which is okay, so and so is having a hard week. How, whatever reason they're
Yeah.
having a hard week. How do we support them? As opposed to, there's, I think, two things that we often do. One is we we still expect the same level of work no matter
Mm,
what is happening personally, right? The second thing is that we'll say something like, let's give them a little grace. Not saying that there's anything wrong with giving
yeah.
them grace, right? But what if you all just actually took some of the workload off?
Exactly.
Like, actually, instead of giving them grace and letting stuff get undone so
Yeah.
that when they're having a better week, now they have twice as much work to
You're
do,
right, exactly. It's taking
right?
it off their plate. Absolutely. Sending
Right.
them home, which sometimes I've had to do a couple times when things, it's like, go home. There's no point here. You need to give yourself a day or two. I'm making you go rest or whatever. And then we just reassign the files. Absolutely. Because you don't want them
Right.
coming back to more piles. It is that we're trying to take care of you. And that's just a simple way of doing it. I think you're like, I had eye surgery earlier this year and I couldn't work for about a week or a week and a half. And which is for me, I was like, and I couldn't look at a screen, right? So I was just lying in bed listening to audiobooks and being taken care of by the family. And my staff all sent me at home little presents, like every single, I was like, oh, because I do that for them, but I never again, the receiving is so hard.
Yeah.
I literally was like, why are you spending your money sending me flowers and sending me wine and sending me things from people from Pakistan and India and Nigeria and US and Canada? I was shocked. And
Yeah.
they said, Evelyn, you take care of us when stuff happens to us. And we just want you to know. And that's when I feel like I might be doing something because it was so thoughtful and so unexpected and not needed, but just so appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I really do. It's beautiful.
Hmm.
What's one unconventional habit or mindset shift that's helped you grow your business?
I would say recognizing that I can't do everything. I can't do
Mm,
everything by myself and I can't do everything well. So it's about recognizing where my strengths are, where my less than strong suits are, weaknesses are. And that's been huge for me that's what delegation, that's how building team. You cannot grow if
uh-huh.
you cannot delegate appropriately, but also if you can't trust other people. And
Right.
sometimes these other people are way better at this or that than I am. So it's
Mhm.
about finding those people that do what I'm not the best at and putting them in their best roles. That's been huge for me because I feel like I've always had to know everything about everything. And of course, I know how my firm operates and I know, and we have everything documented, but I don't have to be the best at it. And I think
Right.
that's really been a big learning for me. Do what you
Yeah.
do well and hire the people that do it better than you to do those.
Right. All right. So Evelyn, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And I know people who do it both ways.
Yeah.
So do you still, this is going to sound, I have to figure out a better way to ask this question, but do you still quote unquote practice law? In other words, are you still working on cases or are you managing?
I'm doing less practicing, but I'm still practicing. And I want to keep it that way. I probably would say I do maybe 30%, and the rest is business development, marketing, running the firm. But
Uh-huh.
the reason I still want to do it is because I usually am the salesperson. So I still need to know all the changes in the law and everything that. So I go to all the conferences and CLEs every year, a lot of them, and I write a lot of our newsletter content. So it keeps me up to date. But also when I do intake paid consultations, I have to be able to give value. So that's where that knowledge comes from. And then I still review challenging files. I have a senior lawyer now, but I still review some of her stuff when she's, I haven't done one of these in a long time. Can you? So I review drafts still, but it's probably about 30% of my day. And the
Hmm.
rest is sales, marketing, and business development and coaching and overseeing the team. I don't think I ever want to get 100% out of it because then I feel like maybe I'll get to 15% and I'll be good with that. But I feel like I don't want to be completely detached from the clients. And I love it when they call me even 5 years later saying, hey, you did this for us. Now we're ready to do this. And I'm still here and they feel like they can still reach me. That's still important to me. Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. All right. Believe it or not, this is the last question. I know. So it's really a two-parter. Again, you've been lawyering for 25 years. You've had your firm for 15 years. If imposter syndrome is going to creep up for you now, currently, and what I really mean by that is if something happens and you have self-doubt or that lack of confidence, where is that likely? What's the circumstance where that is likely to show up for you? And what do you do about it to either get yourself back to neutral or moving forward?
Oh my goodness, that question. I was looking at it and thinking, what am I going to say about that one? It's a hard one. I feel more the imposter syndrome when I get asked to be like on panels or as an example of even doing this. And that's why I keep saying I'm not perfect because there is that part of me that's you're out there reflecting that you've got it all down. And that's not ever the case. And so when I get asked to speak or mentor, or go to universities or conferences, whatever, and I'm the example of a successful entrepreneur, whatever that means, that's when I feel the most of an imposter because yes, we're doing well. Yes, I employ these people, but it's not perfect and I'm not perfect. And so I never want people to think that it's just like this lickety split, it's all good. And so that's when I feel the most like I have to almost bring it down a little and say, listen, we're a work in progress. yes, we've had these incredible successes, and we've also had some real challenges. Like, I've had to pivot my entire firm since COVID. I've had to hire and fire lots of people before I got my A team in the last 5 years of incredible people. So that's when I feel the most. Let's not oversell the success, because I think you have a success. My view, especially as a lawyer, is you have a file that's successful and I'm on to the next. And I think that's something that is not always great, because you do want to celebrate, and I celebrate the team, but then I'm already like on to the next. And I'm looking at what went wrong, because that's the way I've been taught and trained. What went wrong, or what was not as perfect as it could be? How can we make it better? How can we make it better? That's really our mantra, and mine in particular. So yeah, that's why I feel like I'm never that perfect model. It's about a work in progress and constant development, which is why I love coaching, like the kind of work you do, Kim. I love that stuff. I love the people that can help entrepreneurs be better, because I always tell every young lawyer who calls me, or anybody that I talk to, I'm like, you need a coach. You need to do some work, because it's not enough to do the legal work and the business development. You need to work on yourself. And what is
Right.
not just, and it's separate from therapy, which I love and believe in. It is different, and that you need to spend the money you're making on your development. So that's like constant messaging for me.
And I think you said something really important there, which is it's an and conversation, not a but conversation. I think it is important to sit in your own success and really feel that. And they're not mutually exclusive. They get to sit together, which is, yes, I still make mistakes. I still have learning to do. And look at where I've come, right? Look
But
where I
that's the hard part
am.
for me. That is still the
Yeah.
hard part for me. I have to say, like, people will say, Evelyn, look what you've done. And I'm like, yeah, but yeah. And that is something that I have to work through, because you don't want to seem like I think humility is really important too as a leader. And there's a balance for me of trying to find that place where you can be like, well done. And as I said, I'll say, well done, we did it. And then it's like, next, and I'm on to
Mhm.
the next. But I'm not always sitting in that. So just recently, when December 1st came around, I completely forgot it was the firm's anniversary. And then I saw a post that my team had put up, and I was like, oh my God. And so that whole day, I stayed home and I just enjoyed the day by myself and really took the time to look back, because I don't do that a lot, to really appreciate, like, wow, I'm still here. My kids are still getting fed. My team is doing well, blah, blah, blah. 15 years felt substantial. They say that
Mhm.
most businesses, they don't make it past 7 years, whatever, but it feels substantial. So I feel like
Yeah.
I'm going to be okay no matter what happens. I've learned that no matter what happens, I can deal with it. And that's been the best part, I think, of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. One thing I will mention, because it's always hard for me not to put on my coaching hat.
Yeah.
And actually, this is a personal learning that I had. And I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast as well, is that I always was really big into gratitude. I think I'm actually a fairly grateful
Mhm.
person just in general. And because they say, whoever they are, they say you should practice gratitude.
Yeah.
So I was doing it. I was writing down like 5 things I was grateful for every day. And I was like, this for me is just not moving the needle. And I really like, I'm just like, I don't really get this. And then I actually had a former client who wrote a book and asked me to proof the book. And she said something that was just transformative for me, which is, and she was just saying how to practice gratitude, but I was able to make the connection between what I had been doing and what she was talking about, which is I was thinking about gratitude. I was not feeling gratitude. And those are two very different things, right? Now, of course, you have to think, right? Because you have to think about what you're grateful for. But if it's just a mind exercise, at least for me, it was 100% not. It's nice to think about what you're grateful for, but it's not transformative.
Yeah. So how did you change that to the feeling? Because I'm with you on that. I practice that, but it's not always effective.
Yeah. So I think for me, when I feel gratitude, I feel it in my chest. That's physically where I feel it in my body. So I will sit there and I will think of something, whatever it is that I want to feel grateful for, and I put my hand on my chest so that I can really even feel the physical sensation. And then I close my eyes and I just like literally just feel into the spot. And you know what I also think would be really an interesting exercise? I might actually try this. I just thought of it, which is when you have a hard time identifying your feelings or like feeling into like gratitude or something that's happened, I wonder if you generate a list of positive emotions.
Yeah.
And if you were able to read off the list, and the thing is that I really believe that how you identify what gets you is to understand. For me, it's in my chest, but it could be basically anywhere. Typically, it's going to be between your throat and your solar
Yeah.
plexus.
Yeah.
So think about throat to like about your waistline. Figure out where it is for you, and then read the list of just emotions, right? Paying attention to where you feel it in your body, and you'll find your words.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then when you can associate the feelings, like the words of the feelings with your body, I
Mm,
think that is a way to start to be able to get that mind body connection
yes.
better.
I love that. I did a retreat. I know we're going to wrap up soon. I did a retreat this summer. It was incredible. And one of the things was the breath work. It was hiking, but every day we did all this body work, which I think is so important right now because everybody's nervous systems are really out of whack. And I feel like people need to do more than just therapy or spiritual practice, but like body work. And so we did Reiki, we did all this stuff, but this is breath work. And when she started it with the music and all the deep breathing, and then she kept saying, worthy, you are worthy, you are worthy. And everybody was just having this reaction. And to me, that's a word for me that gives me a lot of emotion, whether I feel it or I don't feel it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I think all of us want to be worthy of love, worthy of success, worthy of whatever. And that word just breaks me open into that place of vulnerability and really receiving. And yeah, I think that's a good one. One thing I've always done, and I love this because I think gratitude is also a verb and it's an activity. So I write a lot of thank you cards or I write a lot of letters. Like I've written my old teachers back from high school. Like for me, when I think about the people that have made the most difference to me, it's that writing that and sending it out in the world to them. It just, it makes me so happy, but it also gives them that knowledge that
Yeah.
they impacted my life. And so we do that. Every new file, I send a thank you card, every new whatever. But it's really that sense of gratitude that I'm trying to turn into action.
I love that gratitude that you turn into action. Wow. Okay, that is a thought to end on because
Oh, it's over.
I know. All right, gratitude into action. All right, so definitely feeling gratitude, very important. Gratitude into action. Okay, we're going to make this world a much better place.
Amen. I agree with you, girl.
Yeah. All right. Friends, you have been listening to Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom with my guest, Evelyn Ackah. I am your host, Kim Miller-Hershon. Listen, because you liked what Evelyn had to say today, please share this conversation, share the podcast, and connect with us on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, we enjoyed talking to you today. We know that you got value out of this because Evelyn is amazing. Go out there and be a better human.
Where cliches come to retire. Drop that beat, turn down to fire. Say what's real, make fears take a seat. Unconventional wisdom, dancing on your feet.